You are freezing, not the chill of a winter walk, true freezing cold. You sit inside a dark cave huddled near a dying fire. Outside, massive predators are hunting. Every shadow is a lethal threat. Every sound could be your last. You have barely enough food to survive the night. Instinct says you should sleep. Instinct says you should conserve energy. Instead, you reach into the dirt, grab a handful of small bones, and throw them. Why risk everything now? To answer that, we have to leave the cave and look at what they left behind. When we think of gambling, we picture neon lights. We picture crowded casinos, green felt tables, and stacks of chips. We view it as a modern addiction, a moral failing born from civilized excess. We are entirely wrong. Gambling is not a glitch of modern society. It is an ancient feature of human psychology. Archaeologists digging through the remnants of the ancient world kept finding something strange. Among the tools for survival, sharp spearheads, scrapers, and heavy crushing stones, they found bones. Specifically, sheep heel bones. In the scientific community, these are called Astragali. They were modified. They were intentionally carved, polished, and smoothed down on different sides. They weren't weapons. They weren't meant for eating. They were not discarded as useless trash. For decades, researchers cataloged them in the journal Nature, carefully analyzing their distribution across ancient civilizations. They found these modified sheep heel bones everywhere. They were the ancient equivalent of dice. Our ancestors were gambling long before money existed. Think about that terrifying context. This is a brutal world where every calorie mattered, where starvation was a constant threat, where winter meant absolute death if you didn't spend every waking hour preparing for it. Yet, in the dead middle of this relentless struggle for survival, early humans took the time to hunt a sheep, extract a specific bone from its heel, and meticulously carve it just to create random outcomes. Why would a fragile species fighting desperately for its life waste precious time and energy on pure chance? Why throw small bones in the cold dirt when you absolutely should be sharpening your spears? Because they weren't just killing time. They were engaging in something deeply fundamental to human survival. They were directly interacting with the terrifying unknown. Every single throw of the Astragali was a bold question asked to the universe, a simulation of risk. You throw the bone, you wait for the outcome, you accept the consequence. That wasn't a game. That was the first system of calculating probability. Why would a species facing death every day waste time on randomness? To understand this, you have to look inside the human brain. We assume that humans crave certainty. We think we want absolute guarantees. A guaranteed meal, a guaranteed fire, a guaranteed safe sunrise. But certainty is biologically boring. If you know exactly what is going to happen, your brain simply stops paying attention. The mechanism that drove our ancient ancestors to throw those carved bones is the exact same mechanism that drives modern gambling. It is a psychological principle known as the variable ratio schedule. First identified by the American behaviorist B.F. Skinner, it remains the most powerful neurological loop ever discovered. Here is how it works. If you perform an action and get a reward every single time, you will eventually lose interest. The predictability kills the thrill. But what happens if the ultimate reward is entirely unpredictable? Everything changes. You throw the bones once. Nothing. You throw the bones twice. Nothing. But the third time, you win. That unpredictability completely hacks your biology. Your brain does not release the maximum amount of dopamine when you actually receive a reward. It releases the maximum amount of dopamine right before the result is revealed. It is the agonizing anticipation of the unknown that floods your nervous system. Not the prize, the suspense. The absolute uncertainty. For an early human, sitting in a freezing cave throwing an astragalus bone was a neurological explosion. It provided a synthetic thrill in a harsh world where real thrills usually meant you were about to be ripped apart by a predator. It gave them an illusion of control over the deeply chaotic forces of nature. We look at a gambling addiction today and we call it a weakness. We call it a lack of discipline. We treat it like a moral failure, but it is not a moral failure. It is an ancient survival mechanism that has been flawlessly hijacked. Our brains evolved to relentlessly hunt for patterns in a random, dangerous world. We are hardwired to obsess over the unpredictable because out in the wild, figuring out an unpredictable pattern meant finding food. It meant avoiding predators. It meant staying alive. Those ancient dice were never just a simple distraction from the dark. They were a cognitive simulator. They were the very first time humanity purposely engineered the intoxicating drug of chance. But here's the paradox. We naturally view this deep neurological obsession with random outcomes as a terrible, fatal flaw. We think the brain's vulnerability to the variable ratio schedule is an evolutionary mistake. It is not. That exact vulnerability is the only reason we are still here. Think about it. If early humans only pursued certain rewards, they never would have left the safety of the trees. If they demanded absolute guarantees, they would have stayed in a single valley until the resources ran dry, and our species would have quietly gone extinct. We needed to be pushed into the terrifying unknown. We needed a biological engine that rewarded us for taking massive, unpredictable risks. The very mechanism that makes a modern human pull a slot machine lever is the mechanism that made our ancestors leave the cave. They looked at the frozen horizon and took a chance. We boldly gambled our lives with the violently changing weather. We gambled our lives with the brutal predators waiting in the tall grass. We gambled our lives with the treacherous oceans, sailing into the abyss without knowing if land even existed on the other side. Every great migration, every hunt of a mammoth, every new fire sparked in the freezing dark was an absolute gamble against impossible odds. We did not conquer the planet by playing it safe. We conquered the planet because our brains were chemically hardwired to chase the thrill of the unknown. The addiction to random rewards was not a disease that threatened humanity. It was the cure for stagnation. It forced a fragile, naked ape to keep rolling the dice against nature until we owned the entire board. The profound urge to risk absolutely everything was never our tragic downfall. It was our most powerful, undeniable ultimate weapon. We brought that exact same brain into the modern world. But the environment completely changed. The daily existential threats entirely vanished. We conquered the frozen wilderness, but we kept the deep addiction to unpredictable risk. That is exactly where the hidden danger lies today. Our ancestors gambled to survive. Modern humans gamble to escape reality. We sit in brightly lit, artificial rooms or stare mindlessly at our glowing phone screens, blindly chasing a chemical release that was originally designed to make us boldly cross vast, unknown oceans. We successfully weaponized our own evolutionary survival instinct against ourselves. The powerful drive that built civilization now silently destroys human lives. As long as you do not fully understand the hidden mechanics of your own brain, you are continuously playing a relentless game where the house is your own ancient instinct, and you will eventually lose everything. You have to purposefully break the biological loop. Stop. Observe the quiet, invisible mechanism. Master your own mind. Welcome to the Quiet Mindset.